My name is Jennifer Wan, and I plan to incorporate the ADDIE Instructional Design model for my 4th grade math unit. The ADDIE method is a simple but thorough design that makes sense. The good thing about the ADDIE model is that it is not necessarily intended to be followed in a linear step-by-step fashion, but rather is circular so that it is possible to retrace steps once the data has been collected and analyzed. The ADDIE model is broken down into 5 basic steps: analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. The first step is to analyze. Here I must analyze both my learners and my broad goal. The broad goal I'm going to focus on with my 4th graders is multiplication. To analyze them, I prepared a pre- and post-assessment that will measure the selected standards. Through this pre-assessment, I can analyze where my students are in reference to my desired outcome and set learning goals for my students. This allows me to group my students according to their strengths and weaknesses, while also allowing me to know what areas I need to focus on more. Here is the pre-assessment that I created. As you see, it's a basic 10-question assessment that just pulls 1 to 2 questions from each unit or section I plan to teach. The next step is to actually design. Here I decided to focus on one main objective, which is 4 NBT 5, states I can multiply a whole number of up to 4 digits by a 1-digit whole number. I have to consider the fact that this is the first of many units on multiplication for my class. Knowing that this objective will carry into future units is important for me as I develop this particular unit. I have to be aware that I am gradually teaching them to master the skill, with each unit building on the past one to reach the end goal. I look at all the topics I plan to cover in my unit and try to think about the topics that may need multiple days versus topics that only require 1 day. A key component is to make sure that as I design my unit, I keep my end goal in mind and let it drive my instruction. The main strategies that I will teach include using arrays and multiplying by multiples of 10 and 100, breaking apart to multiply, using mental math to multiply, and using rounding to estimate when multiplying. The next step is to develop the plan. Here I have to think of instructional strategies, resources I can use, how I plan to group my students, and even the timeline of how I plan to present my lessons. Knowing my group of learners is key to setting up my lessons. I currently have my math class set up so that I present the mini lesson to the entire class, and then the class splits up into 3 groups in a workshop model. My lowest group meets with me first so that I can teach the lesson to them right away while it's still fresh in their mind. My middle group gets to do center activities that include activities on tablets, computers, doing games and manipulatives. And my high group receives their homework first, allowing them to work on the assignment prior to meeting with me. This way they can come to me with specific questions that came up on their homework. When time is up, the groups rotate, and my low group now becomes the group that's working on their assignment. My middle group is now in one-on-one instruction with me, and my high group is practicing their skills in the centers. And then we have one final rotation where they all go to the last rotation they haven't hit yet. The 5th step is to actually implement it. Here I actually teach the lessons, go through my workshop model, and that includes bringing in my center activities that are both online and include manipulatives and games. Now I'm going to show you just a couple of examples of those different activities I use. There are 3 main websites I use, including Study Ladder, which allows the kids to play game-like activities to study their facts. 10 Marks, where I'm able to assign them specific tasks to work on. And SumDog, which involves games and activities and even allows them to participate in competitions against other classmates, other people in the state, other people in the United States, as well as people across the world. The great thing about these websites is I can log in and see what progress they've made, things that they're struggling on, and things that they're doing well. This can help drive my instruction. Here I will bring in grid paper to show them how to use it as an array and break apart. I have games to show them how to multiply by multiples of 10 and 100. There's a matching game for estimating and rounding. And then for some of the harder concepts, I have some posters that they will cut and glue and put into their interactive notebook. The last step is to evaluate. I actually do this per lesson, and then once I feel like they have mastered the entire thing, I give them a post-assessment, which is the exact same quiz I gave them in the beginning for a pre-assessment. Evaluating as I go is just as important as every other step, because if I fail to evaluate the success of my students, then I feel like I'm failing my job as a teacher. If something doesn't work out, then it's my responsibility to look where they're struggling and seek out other ways to help them. This is where I receive the most benefits by breaking my class into smaller groups. When they're in that one-on-one setting, I can see more closely who's having troubles and who's not. After giving them the post-assessment, I can measure growth made by my students. This can aid me in doing a final reflection on which parts of the unit went over well, in addition to the areas that may need more work in the future. This also helps me as I begin to prepare for my next unit, where the process begins all over again. Thank you.